Welcome to the University of Karate.
You are with the University of Karate, and we are here to look at the styles, concepts, science, history, techniques, the cultural factors that all have played a part and are pieces of the puzzle that come together to form what we understand as the martial arts. Here at the University of Karate, we're trying to bring together all the various aspects that help us understand this thing called the martial arts, no matter what style or what country or what framework you come from. We all are on the same plane of looking at these methods, and today's topic plays into this very, very well. We're here with Sensei Biddle again, and we're continuing our conversation concerning kata, and especially what we call today, or our topic is concerning the circle of kata. We had a message that we just finished, and we're going into this. It could be a part two. It was called the 8 Uechi Ryu Kata, the good, the bad, and the mostly bad. And now this part 2 is called the circle of kata. Before I let Sensei Biddle jump in here and give us understanding, let me just set this up to some degree for those that are listening. And it would be good if you went back and saw video 1 and looked at that and then came here. But to make it easy for you, Kambun Uechi, when he came back from China and brought the embryo, the nucleus of what we know as Uechi Ryu today, it was 3 kata. 3 kata, arm pounding, some techniques of, what we might call grappling today, but applications, and other different training exercises. But that was just mainly the nucleus of what we had, or what he brought back, what was sufficient. And the concept of the circle of kata is the fact that the first of 3 katas, you have Sanchin, Seisan, and Sanseiryu. Sanchin is seen as, to many minds, the first kata, but actually it's the only kata. Everything is in Sanchin. But when you take this first kata and start studying what seems like basic techniques, basic moves, basic principles, you learn a movement, a structure of movement, a structure of generating power, a structure of operating the body, training the body, that when you come to the second kata, which is Seisan, it opens up what you're doing in Sanchin. You start seeing movements in Seisan that at first you can't understand where or how this could be in such a simple seemingly kata as Sanchin. But as you start studying and thinking and examining, you start to see that some of these movements that seem so different, you can find them in various parts of Sanchin if you really think about it. Most of the practitioners of what we now know as Uechi Ryu studied Sanchin and Seisan only. Like I said in our previous message, Kambun Uechi taught Sanseiryu to his son maybe a few years before he died. After decades of studying, he taught him this last kata. And that kata was taught by Kane Uechi to Kambun Uechi's best student, which is Sabaru Hara, and those two taught all the other Uechi practitioners this kata we know as Sanseiryu. Now, Sanseiryu, if you just saw Sanseiryu somewhere on a video, you would probably have no connection with that and Sanchin. But everything in Sanseiryu is in Sanchin. Sanchin leads you to Seisan, Seisan to Sanseiryu, and Sanseiryu leads you right back to Sanchin. This is called the circle of kata. Now Sensei Biddle is going to explain that concept, that idea, and what it means to us. Sensei Biddle.
Okay, so my instructor, when he talked about the circle of kata, he said to me, and like I said in the last video, if you watch that, about the 8 kata, you have Sanchin, Seisan, Sanseiryu, and Sanseiryu is out there. It's not taught. It's just not. You don't until you're ready. we don't do that anymore. We just teach them the katas and the forms, and I understand all the reasons, and I talked about it in the last video. But Sanseiryu was special. And what he said to me, and he would say this a lot, not just to me, but a lot of times in class, and he'd just throw this out. He goes, the circle of kata, you learn Sanchin, and then you have Seisan, and you take what you know in Sanchin and you apply it to Seisan, and then when you're ready to get your, I'm trying to figure out how he actually put it. All the patterns broke. We teach you Sanseiryu. He says, but that's not the end of it. That's just the journey. The next round, the circle bend, is you take all the information you now know from Sanseiryu and you reapply it to Sanchin. And then you go around again. The circle of kata is theoretically endless. I've been through 3 or 4 of the navigations. And yeah, no, we'll talk more about that. But so what is that? And see, that's where the problem with some of the other katas that I say they're in the way, because it dims the difference. You need to understand the difference between Sanchin and Seisan. And then when you get Sanseiryu, you need to understand what that difference is. Because you can't come back to Sanchin unless you've fulfilled the Sanseiryu portion of it. And so there's 3 components. 3 is a number that we keep coming back to, but it's an interesting thing. There's 3 components. 2 of them I'm going to talk about in this video. The third we'll talk about in the next video. The 2 here are the sequencing of tiger, dragon, crane, and you move through you appreciate the movement patterns by doing Sanchin, Seisan, Sanseiryu. You see more tiger, dragon, crane. You become more aware of it. And then you come back to Sanchin. Now, how can you do your Sanchin with more tiger, dragon, crane? There's the question. See, I can't, like I said again in the other video, there's principles, which are things that you can be taught, and there's concepts, the things you have to grasp. This is a concept. You come back with this new awareness, and it's like a eye-opening, aha moment, epiphany, if you will. Your awareness has changed. The reason we don't see this, and this isn't a knock on anybody, but the reason we don't see this is it's not done. We do all these other katas. And I'm not knocking all the other katas. All the other styles out there, you have your katas, and they're all doing their things. Now, their system is built differently than this. I don't know what your system is. I don't know the progressions. Like, I can't take you through Shotokan and understand the concepts through the forms of Shotokan. That's not what I do. I appreciate different things, and I see things, and I see commonalities, and that's how I digest them. But I can't walk you through the progression. That's for your sensei to do. That's for you to do. But I'm telling you, there are progressions in all these forms, especially if you have these animal styles. And anything that came from Shaolin, don't give up on that, please. Just think about it. But in Uechi Ryu, I do. So you go through this progression and your tiger, dragon, crane evolves. Your movement patterns start to change. Your expression starts to change. You come back to Sanchin and you start applying this, and your Sanchin changes. So that's just a concept, and that's something that has to be experienced and looked at. I can't teach you that. I was not taught that. I had to do that. My instructor told me that you must do. So, but I did. So the other concept within that is the concept of Sanchin. As John alluded to, all is Sanchin, and Kanban that was one of Kanban's expressions, all is Sanchin. Well, what was that? What did that mean? And I see a lot of times everybody tries to find Sanchin in this movement or that movement, but Sanchin is not the elbow strike. Sanchin is not the palm strike. Sanchin is not the chop. Sanchin is a concept. It's a construct. It's an idea. It's a system. It's an all-encompassing system. But the movement patterns, how do I say this? See, there's hard, like I said, concepts are challenging to explain, but bear with me. The movement patterns are expressions of Sanchin. Can you contain Sanchin in the movement patterns? There's the concept. Mostly we think of going from Sanchin to Seisan, to Sanseiryu, or the other katas in sequence. And Sanchin's kind of just left out here hanging. Well, what were we doing with Sanchin? Well, what I want to know is, did you take Sanchin with you? And did you find the way to magnify Sanchin within those new movement patterns? Because if you can bring Sanchin with you, and you got to not think about technique. You got to bring the concept of Sanchin with you and let it express itself in the new movement patterns. And when you get there, and then Sanseiryu does its job, like I said in the last video, it's a mind breaker. It's a blow your bomb, your bridge behind you, and then you go back and figure out how to do it again. It should be disorienting. And this is how my instructor, when he taught me Sanseiryu, he said, look, you're not going to get this. But as you evolve in this, it's going to disorient you. It's going to break you. And he said that's why they didn't teach it too soon. Because if you don't understand it, it's never going to do anything for you. It's just going to be a movement pattern. It needs to break you. So the gap between Seisan and Sanseiryu was a long time. Like John said, decades between Kenai. I mean, imagine Kenai Uechi not knowing Sanseiryu for all these years, and then he gets it. Why? Nobody goes, why? Because it has a purpose. Now, as you evolve to this point, and you bring Sanchin with you to Sanseiryu, see, there's the missing ingredient. You got to bring the animals, and you got to bring Sanchin. Because Sanchin is not an animal. It's not a style. It's not an animal style. Sanchin was taught, we've talked about this before, in a lot of Chinese and Okinawan style. Sanchin exists, Seisan exists. Sanseiryu is a little bit harder to find. It's a little unique in Uechi Ryu. So you have to bring the concept of Sanchin with you and learn to bring it into the movement patterns. When you get to Sanseiryu, the patterns change. And it becomes a mind-bending journey to carry Sanchin with you in it. But when you do, the game is a new thing. You've gone. It's like you're playing a game in a computer game and you beat the boss, and now you go to a new world. Oh boy, there's a new world with new challenges.
New level.
Yeah, new level. You've jumped a level. That's what Sanseiryu does, but it has to say Sanchin has to be brought with it, because we've talked a lot about Sanchin, so you have to watch all of our videos to understand the whole of Sanchin, and I've only grazed the surface in those. If you bring Sanchin with you, and then you get this explosion of movement patterns that Sanseiryu creates, new angles, new movements, new sequences, and Sanchin stays with you, and then the circle of Kata, as we started this video with, you go back where? Sanchin. Oh, well, yeah, we do. We start over again. And you go through this loop. And here's how my instructor says, he said, with the knowledge that you gain in Sanseiryu, you go back to Sanchin and you reopen it. And it's a new toy. It's a new thing. Oh boy, this is different. And then you go to Seisan with that new knowledge, and you do this again, and you get to Sanseiryu, and it does it to you again. And you come back around. So I don't know how many times you can go around. I mean, like I said, I did 4, and I stopped because I got what I needed out of it for me. But that's the circle. Circles don't have an end, do they? So I am still on the circle 45 years later, I'm still doing the circle. Because most of my ideas now are wrapping around Sanchin. Sanchin is the thing. It is the thing. It starts with Sanchin and ends with Sanchin. And that's the point. That's the circle. So there's another part of the three, because I talked about animal styles, I talked about integrating Sanchin, and there's a third, which we'll talk about in the next video.
If you know anyone who has started, is studying, has studied, or is a longtime practitioner of Uechi Ryu, you need to send them this video. You need to send them this whole series. This is refreshing for those that have some knowledge. It's eye-opening for those that are gaining in knowledge. It's a wealth of information, shedding light on a path that for many, they've never even thought of before. We're looking at this circle of kata, and we're coming back again with part 3 very soon. Again, if you are being enlightened and blessed by these talks, please, 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 we want you to like, we want you to subscribe, we want you to generate more interest in this channel by liking and subscribing, and also sharing with someone you know. You can text it, you can go on and just copy and paste the share code, text it to somebody, get the word out, let people know what's happening on this channel if you think that some good things are happening here. Again, you're with the University of Karate, and look for part 3. We'll see you next time.